This ACC College Football Preview Part 1 edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog. Get up to a $1,000 deposit match when you sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN.
What's up? It's the most must-see WWE superstar of all time, The Miz, and you are watching SGPN, and it is awesome. Let it ride.
He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Kram?
Dog.
Was that a metaphorical identity crisis?
Well, we just got triple sessions cranking out the college football previews. Little fumble by me, no big deal. Little hiccup. Joining us in studio, you know him, you love him from the college experience. Pick Picasso, aka Colby Dant, aka Pick Dundee. What's happening, Colby?
He could fumble.
He could fumble. Yes,
You gotta slow down the cadence. Pick Asso.
Picasso.
Maybe it's even
Pablo
like
Picasso.
say it like a Spaniard, so a little bit pervy, right? Like not quite all the way Italian.
Do you need
pervy.
the list? Pablo Picasso.
Oh, that would actually work.
That well, and of course,
Pick.
I mean.
Do I still have a list?
Kramer, how have we
Hold
not?
on, let me
he's
try-
in studio. We always thought it was because of a remote connection, but
Do I still have a list?
I don't. Colby, what's going on?
Pick Asso.
Kramer, yours is too sexy.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be, a little sexy.
Okay.
He's an artist.
Well, we got part 1 of the ACC College Football Preview. We're breaking it up in 2 teams. So these are Boston College all the way to Miami, Florida. Kramer does have his Virginia Tech shirt on. Preview early.
Worth noting too, we kicked
2.
Notre Dame out of the ACC this season. They get their own episode.
They're going to be a part of the Pac-2 and the Independents.
Yep. Yeah, I am wearing my Virginia Tech shirt.
Okay. How do
I
you
still have the hokey stuff up behind me, including the signed basketball from Seth Greenberg. I don't think I talk about enough about how I have a signed basketball of Seth Greenberg.
What year did you get that?
So I won that at a hokey alumni like watch party of just a regular season game in LA.
So how long
at
ago?
Barney's? He must have been the coach still.
Okay.
So
Because I was
what year
thinking
that?
maybe all this bad energy was.
No, the bad energy is that, well, for a long time I've realized that, and Virginia Tech is in part 2, so deal with it. We'll probably talk about this some more. Since I went to the school, I realized I was most likely seeing the mountain top, not when I was there, but as I was watching the end of Tyrod. I said I had this very clear moment of clarity where I realized, how could it possibly be better than what has happened? And then for the next 15 years after that, I've stupidly fallen into the team. Thought they were going to be better than they were. They inevitably screw up a nice weekend at the beach by losing to.
They got pissed on. They got pissed on
Vanderbilt,
last year.
or
that was
Diego
great.
they
Pablo.
ruin a nice trip to DC when they lose to
Drone
Kellen
strikes.
Moore and Boise State. They ruin a trip
I was
to
there.
Alabama when Ryan Williams and the squad almost get it done against Alabama, and you learn what an SEC crowd really sounds like. So yeah, I mean the donation hasn't gone out this year.
JMU also.
JMU comes in and spits all over the graves of those poor souls who were killed on the campus of
Oh,
Virginia
my-
Tech.
That was ECU.
What did I say?
JMU.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
ECU. JMU ruined Sean's wedding. No, that's sorry. ODU ruined Sean's wedding.
Yeah, right. You guys have really choked away a number of. I cannot wait to go through the Virginia
wedding.
Tech
The
schedule.
wedding
part 2.
one was bad because that was a lot of money. There was a lot. We were sitting around doing nothing, waiting around, just watching this game, and I'm smashing the live bets.
A little bit of a chase
And
there.
the wife gets hammered. It's all the whole, and then next thing you know, Dick Olson, his wife's drunk. And he wants to go to McDonald's and get fillet of fish. It was a whole thing. We ran out. I mean, Unfortunately, our friend of the program, Justin, was very concerned about the volume of pizza at the wedding, and then his worst nightmares came true.
The guy said unlimited pizza. I guess eventually there was.
Oh my god! I don't. Yeah, I mean the level of fear that Justin had that we weren't actually going to have enough pizza. I'll never forget that. Anyway, yeah. So Virginia Tech didn't get the donation this year.
Clemson ended up winning the ACC championship against SMU. Crazy game. And my big sweat was Syracuse to win the ACC. They almost got into the conference championship game. That would have been a fun ride. Kyle McCord. We'll talk about him in part 2 in Syracuse, but we got Boston College. Bill O'Brien. Let's kick it off, Kramer.
I mean,
or any other big picture,
if I may,
and we have Chapel Bill part 2 as well.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Chapel Bill, and you also have Chestnut Bill. So
Chestnut Bill.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien there at Boston College. So I mean, it's a thing going on the internet.
I didn't know he was going by the
guys.
name as well.
Well, SMU comes in year 1.
Yeah.
And goes to the ACC championship.
Who could have seen that coming?
Ran the table within the conference. All right. They came from the AAC, and this is further proof that East Carolina would be the best team in this conference, because they come in your little conference, your all coast conference, year 1.
I am an East Carolina fan.
And that happens. Please, buddy. Please. All right.
Well, remember SMU? They almost lost to Nevada up in Reno week 1.
Should have.
We were all over Nevada and the points. And SMU was a very weird team. They lost early to BYU. Like they got off to a pretty slow start relative to expectations, and then they just got hot.
The quarterback change to Kevin Jennings was huge.
Yeah, and then ended up getting worked by Penn State in the playoffs.
Yeah, that was even a weird game because they were moving the ball. He just couldn't avoid pick sixes.
Was it 2 pick sixes?
What conference is ECU in?
They're in the American Conference.
I just wanted to come back to something. American, 6 players drafted. ACC. I mean, college football expert Colby Dant might have you believing differently. Well, ACC still number 3 to the Big Ten and SEC in players drafted.
Can you put your snorkel mask on? Because it doesn't really count if you take AAC players. And
level of competition.
Like all of SMU's players came from the AAC. Those are all the guys that got drafted, by the way.
Level of competition.
And to say that they are ACC players, to sit there and say, well, yeah, they're ACC players. No, they spent their entire careers in the AAC.
I don't make the rules.
All right. So get this nonsense out of here.
Colby's got a lot of hate. He lives in ACC country now. That could be where the hate comes from. All right, let's talk about the first school, which, as someone who's been to a game on the beautiful campus, first we have to look at these horrendous national championship odds for all these teams. Just out of control.
There's a lot of zeros on this graphic right now.
I mean, basically everyone but Clemson and Miami is a joke.
Clemson 13-1, Miami 41-1, Louisville.
There's a couple there.
85-1.
Yeah,
there's some value there.
I think it's
All right, we'll get to it.
Yeah,
Boston College, which just the classic logo. Colby clearly protesting. BC, one of the worst college football environments. I'm sure.
I think it's coming back to the way it was in the 80s.
Well, because the Patriots are sucking. I'm sure that might help.
Chestnut Bill, he's brought in some money. He's got these boosters fired up. Of
I
course,
feel like people thought I was crazy smashing the over last year on. It was what, 4.5? That was easy.
Horrible game day environment up there. Horrible tailgate environment. It's just
they should license.
He's still mad at Matt Ryan.
They should license Enter Sandman.
If you've been to if we're ranking ACC game day environments, I'll have to think hard about the one that would be lower than Boston College. Stanford,
Miami
versus Boston College, very similar actually.
They played one of the most iconic games in the history of college football, though.
At least with Miami, you get people there like a pro crowd. Boston College is just not a good environment. 5.5 is the win total this year. After, as Sean mentioned, they went over last year, 7-5, plus 114 to the over, minus 140 to the under, 70-1 to win the conference. Colby's, we didn't check Colby's numbers, and look what happened. 30-1 to make the play. You got him plus 480 to win the conference. No.
Did I mess this
Yeah,
up?
you messed that up. 70-1 to win the conference.
70-1. 70-1's a better price.
Now I'm nervous about all of my numbers.
Oh no, 30-1 to make the playoff. 800-1 to win the championship. I mean, you were probably right to take them last year.
Yeah. And they've only moved it up one game. I just think with this boss, with Bill O'Brien as the head coach, he's a competent football guy. I think he gets you a decent floor. I don't think there's much of a ceiling, but I think this Boston College team is going to be 500.
What's the quarterback situation, Colby?
Grayson James, remember they had their quarterback Castellanos hit the quit in the middle of the season.
Yeah,
he's at Florida State now. But Grayson James,
perfect school for quitters.
Yeah, we saw that last season. But Grayson James, the Florida international transfer there, came in and he's battling for starting position. They also hit the portal and brought in Dylan. What is it? Dylan Longerbam or some shit like that from Alabama. Yeah. What is it? Logaran? I forget what it is. But he's an Alabama transfer. We've never seen him play. But Bill
O'Brien's a quarterback whisperer. He got Christian Hackenberg drafted, right?
Yeah, no, and I got to admit, I thought
never forget.
You know, I didn't realize, I think, how much time he had spent in college football. So I think he hit the ground. Bill O'Brien. He was with George O'Leary and Georgia Tech and Ralph Friedgen for a long time, and then he was at Penn State. So like, I kind of thought it was like more like the Lovie Smith shit of like they're hiring an NFL guy that just does not realize the grind of it's a different world to me, right? So I just
he put in his time in college football, and then you look at his only. He only had, even in the pros, he had one season. He was under 500, 4-12. With the Texans last year there, and then then he was 11-5, or sorry, in 2017 he was 4-12 with the Texans, and then the year he got fired in 2020 he started 0-4. But I mean, he's a guy that's just has winning football seasons. He's been in the college 3 years, 8-4, 7-5, 7-6 with
as a head coach. Yeah,
as a head coach, and I think he has a shit ton of experience. I think he will get these guys up.
No, I'm buying in now. I was very impressed year one with the adversity that the team went through. I think
I feel like they could have even had
DC too.
Yeah,
so.
I know we don't typically evaluate players. Oh, what is this, Colby? Why is the old slides here? I have no idea what's going on here. I'm just gonna get rid of them. But look at this name, Jaden Skeet, and Jaden is Jaedn.
Okay, a lot to unpack here. But I refer you to the great Dave Chappelle sketch where he goes, "White people don't know what skeet means. No way they would let you say that on the radio if they knew what that meant."
And how about Lewis Bond also? I mean, I'm kind of optimistic about the future of Boston College football. He's got them to invest some more money too. So I know you look at the schedule, see 5.5 wins, but
let's walk through the schedule. Home against Fordham, at Michigan State, at Stanford. So a little back to back.
Michigan State game is tricky.
Yeah.
But they should, they could easily be 3-0. I'll put it like that. I think they'll definitely be 2-1, and they could be 3-0.
You're not worried about Fordham? They usually got some run up there.
Lombardi's alma mater,
they usually got some run up there. That's a tough back-to-back road spot too.
Yeah,
you can't underestimate.
Stanford just fired their coach. I just feel like Stanford is.
Are you kidding me? Are you joking right now? Andrew Luck's taking snaps.
It's just the whole roster transferred. I just feel like they're kind of in this taboo, and they fire their coach so late that doesn't normally work out. So
they fired him, to Colby's point. They fired him late in the process. You do get the early bye, then you get Cal at home, at Pitt, Clemson at home, UConn at home.
Jesus,
UConn's pretty good though.
Yeah,
that was lost in last.
But
season.
You should be able to beat them at home. At Louisville, Notre Dame at home. That is going to be
this is a brutal schedule.
That's going to be a game they get up for. SMU at home. That's where you want to play them. Georgia Tech at home.
Their road games are very tough.
At
home
Syracuse.
Games.
Well, they catch some bad home games, but
they're after
September,
this
schedule is tough, but I'm still on the over 5.5.
After September, you have Clemson, UConn, Notre Dame, SMU, Georgia Tech at home. UConn's independent, but I still think they're like an 8-9 win team. The rest are all contenders for the playoffs.
So you found 6 wins on this schedule.
It's just a belief in Bill O'Brien. Yeah, if you look at the schedule, I can see why you would want to take the under. And then you're at Syracuse before the ACC championship game. Yeah.
What are the lock wins? Fordham, Cal.
I don't even think Cal's still got some
UConn.
guys.
No, I'm saying they don't have a ton of guaranteed wins. I get why you'd be
Fordham and Stanford.
I get why you'd be skeptical.
You think Stanford's a guaranteed win? Cross country trip. The college teams have not shown that they do the cross country trip.
I just feel like it's a dumpster fire right there. You know what I mean? Like they maybe rights the ship, guys. But that I don't think it's going to happen in the first 3 games. Yeah, I'll take the under, even though I am optimistic about the future.
Yeah, me too. I'll run back.
I think he's the right guy for the job. And Patty C, by the way, put this into the universe like 7 years ago, saying Bill O'Brien, Boston College can't win without an O'Brien at head coach.
Yeah, I got no problem with him as the coach. I just think this is a really tough schedule.
The ACC schedule is brutal.
And what's up with the bye at the end? I don't understand teams that do why would you wait till then to do the bye?
Yeah, even the non-con, like you're basically playing 3 losable games out of 4 because UConn's gotten a lot better under Jim Mora. Michigan State, it's in Sparty, and then Notre Dame.
Jesus,
that's a pretty brutal non-con.
But we're all on the over.
No, I'm on the under.
Under.
You guys are under.
Yeah.
All right.
I keep asking you, where are you getting those 6 wins?
Yeah, no, Bill O'Brien. He doesn't have losing seasons.
I know you have a faith in Bill O'Brien. I'm just saying.
Why don't you have faith in him?
I think he's a fine coach. I just think this is an insane schedule. It
is a tricky schedule.
You have some of all the tough teams on your schedule are coming to your.
They got to start 4-0 to get there, in my opinion. To get there, they got to start 4-0. Then they can get UConn to go to 5.
I feel like we had the same conversation last year, right?
Fair.
But last year's conference schedule was so much nicer.
He came in after Joe Paterno. You want to talk about a tough situation?
Last year's non-con, Florida State was a 2-win team.
Yeah.
Duquesne's terrible.
Yep.
Michigan State was in year 1 of Jonathan Smith in the 4th game.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Now it's a road.
They barely beat West. They had no business beating Western Kentucky that game, by the way. They had Virginia on the schedule. Virginia Tech on the schedule. And North Carolina with Mac Brown was a fucking disaster.
Did they win a road game last year? No.
I mean that's
they didn't win a road game, so I guess they
they're tough out at home.
They beat Florida State.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
They beat a Florida State team that had one of the worst seasons in the history of the program. All right, so good luck, Sean. I know this is really just about leprechauns and being Irish, but
no, I think Bill O'Brien's a good head coach who has had one losing year in a lot of years of coaching football. I could see a path
for 6-6, but you're trying to thread the needle. There's no way.
Get that needle out of here. Hey, have you guys signed up for the Circa Million Circa Survivor? Come out, hang out with us. Ultimate Contest Weekend, August 21st through the 23rd. Colby's going to be out there. It's College Football Week 0. Also, great time to sign up for the Circa Million, Circa Survivor, 15 million in guaranteed prizes. The worst thing that could happen to you in your life is to win your office survivor pool and to not also be in Circa Survivor, the ultimate test of wills, and then Circa Million, 5 picks against the spread. Again, you're picking these games already. Make sure you cash in and come out. You sign up in person. Great excuse to go out to Las Vegas, hang out with us, and you get a proxy. You go to footballcontest.com and use the promo code SGP, get $50 off your proxy fees, and promo code SGP 15% off Circa, the D or the Golden Gate. Come hang out with us in Circa, beautiful Las Vegas, awesome property, great contest. You cannot go wrong. And we're also brought to you by mybookie.ag, your place to get down on every sport, including college football futures, NFL futures, NFL preseason right around the corner. Hell, they even let you bet on baseball. You can bet on anything over at mybookie.ag, and you get a deposit match up to $1,000, 100% deposit match. Terms and conditions apply with the rollover. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN.
All right. Dun, dun, dun. Moving along, and again, you want to check this out on YouTube because Colby is showing us stuff that we've never seen before. This Cal logo included. I've never seen this one before. Not sure where he got it from. Very impressed. Cal coming off a not great season in the ACC, 2-6, but 6-6 overall.
Oh, they got hosed in a couple games. That
Very
Miami
close.
Game, that Miami game was a crock of shit.
Oh, how'd they lose that?
You
No,
could say
that-
that about a number of Miami games
Illegal
last year.
blocking down the field. It's like they let the offensive lineman on a passing. I mean, that was just ridiculous.
If Cam Ward
call.
didn't
Yeah.
get the assist
Yeah.
from the officials in a couple of those games, his record would have been quite mid.
Would he have still been number 1 overall?
Probably.
Yeah.
But you got to ask a couple more questions when you have like those reckless plays in those games that cause them to be trailing. All of a sudden, maybe gain a little bit more spotlight. 5.5 is the number this year. -130 to the over, +106 the under. 70-1. Nope. How do we have such different 70-1 to win the ACC?
I did pull it from I think
30-1.
DK.
No, yeah. There's no way that was the 30-1 to win the playoff. One
to make the
1,000.
playoff.
Sorry to make the playoff. 1,000-1 to win the playoff. The Cal Bears, good. So it's been a good last couple of weeks for one of their former players, Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about something else too, like one of their former players, Ron Rivera.
Oh, I was not going to go there.
So Cal has an interesting situation last year, and I've always thought that Cal fans were kind of slept on.
Oh,
Game day showed up.
Yeah.
Got great moment for their fan base.
They should have won that game.
Oh, that was so brutal.
But in my opinion, a lot of people think of Cal and they think of Stanford's fan base, which is terrible. Cal actually, to me, I think they have better fans than UCLA. I think Cal is this like out of the power schools in California. I think it's the second best fan base. They had a big situation this offseason. So they hired Ron Rivera. He's a former Cal linebacker for them. He's their general manager.
Our audience knows him as Riverboat Ron.
Yeah.
Analytical Ron.
Yeah. So their NIL collective wanted Rivera in charge of the football program.
Yes.
And there was a standoff. They stopped paying NIL. And with that happening, their whole team left, right? They're like, honestly, go
Wait,
look
what was it? What was the battle over?
over power. They want Ron Rivera to have all the power over football.
And so they stopped paying.
So they stopped paying, and
who was fighting them?
the administration.
Why
would the administration?
So essentially, Jaden Ott, who's one of the best running backs in the country, ends up at Oklahoma after saying he was staying with Cal. Now Mendoza, their quarterback, had already left for Indiana. That was one in the winter cycle, but the spring cycle, a bunch left, right? But I also thought Rivera, he won this battle, by the way. They fired the athletic director, or forced him into early retirement, and now he has got full reins. And I'm kind of they did a good job patching what they lost, in my opinion. But it's been one of the more fascinating off seasons because you kind of have this conflict within the university. But another thing I like that Cal did, first off, they brought in Devin Brown, the Ohio State quarterback that battled for the starting position. Devin Brown wears number 33 in honor of Sammy Ball, so you know the guy's a fucking winner. They also brought in LJ Johnson, who was a former big-time running back recruit from SMU. Once they lost Ott, and then they did where they were able to maintain, I think, 4 of the 5 offensive linemen back. They also hired Brian Harsin, who was wrongfully fired at Auburn, to be their offensive coordinator.
But do we believe in Justin Wilcox, Colby?
I think he's a good coach. I think he's had to deal with unfortunate circumstances.
What's Brian Harsin doing?
He's their OC, and Nick Rolovich is on the staff too.
Ooh.
So I am.
Who, by the way, it sounds like Nick is making some progress with his lawsuit against the state of Washington.
Yeah, he should, as he should.
Oh, this is an interesting vibes team, Sean.
But I like those that coaching staff.
I'm a little skeptical of Justin Wilcox. Like you got to go back to 2019 when he had a winning season.
You got some lieutenants there that have been wrong. That are trying to prove something.
He had to go through COVID. They couldn't practice in Berkeley.
Right. COVID. Yeah. They were 1-3, but 2021 5-7, 22 4-8, 6-7. Last year 6-7. Year before.
I don't know that there's been a harder thing battling COVID. That thing took a couple years there, and then they joined a conference where they're playing other games 3,000 miles away.
But they're still playing games 3,000 miles away.
I know,
right?
I know. But to me, they lost a lot of close games. To me, like I don't know. I'm like,
no,
I
they
understand
were close
the point.
to being. They were 3-4, but you could make a case like they were only a few plays away from being 7-0. That's the optimism. But then you said, as you pointed out, you lose Ott, you lose some of the other guys.
Their quarterback went to
I
Indiana.
do like
All right, let's look at this. schedule.
Rolovich is a good coach, and having him on the roster.
Harsin too. Like those are all guys. So Harsin and Wilcox were at Boise State with Chris Peterson when they won that with the Statue of Liberty play. When they went undefeated in 07 and
They
08.
lost to Florida State last year.
That was just missed field goals after missed field goals.
That's a horrible look.
All of their wins though, they should have had. Like look, like honestly, the only one that they got really blown out on was the SMU game where they had no business winning. The other ones in the regular season, they probably should have won those games.
So you said this is one where you say they had they lost. Only 2 of their games weren't 1-score losses. Only 2 of their losses. So 4 of their losses, 1-score losses.
That is usually a good indicator.
Regression loading.
But that whole team is gone. It's this is one of the more interesting teams.
Well, let's look at the schedule this year.
I think it's amazing. This is why I'm optimistic on it. Week 1 is huge. That's a low key awesome game. Former Pac-10 game. Cal at Oregon State. Then they host Texas Southern. Chris Dishman, the head coach there in the FCS, the former corner for the Redskins. The Gophers, PJ Fleck coming to town, and then
wonder how that rowboat's going to do in the waters of Northern California.
I got him 3-1 in the non-con. That's the non-con I just gave you.
At Boston College, tough spot.
It's the start conference play at Boston College. Home to Duke.
The Boston College is a back-to-back road spot too.
Yeah.
After that, I mean, they granted going
And
down
now you're San Diego State. You're in state, but that's still a decent trip.
physical game probably.
But look at these. Look at these first 6 games.
Dude, I look at the schedule, and I see
First 6 games. How
could
many guaranteed wins do you have?
They could be.
okay, fair. But I would also ask you this. I'll say on the entire schedule, I only see like 1 guaranteed loss.
Yeah,
and that's Louisville.
They
don't get Clemson. They don't get Miami. They don't get Florida State. They honestly, like, the schedule is very nice. It now, who knows? I'm not saying they're going to go 11-1. I just think.
Well, in the first 6 games, how many will they be favored?
I think they're already favored in Corvallis.
But it's a pick 'em.
Okay, when I did my Cal preview like a week ago, I think they were a 1 point.
But they'll be favored week 2. They'll be favored week 3. Will they be favored on the road at San Diego State?
San Diego State is still in a rebuild.
So that's the Boston College. They're not favored there, maybe, but then Duke they're favored again. So you basically have a pick 'em, and
Duke might be favored in that game, but that's a far trip for Duke. And as you know, NC Nick, big Duke fan, he's scared about that game. I think
4 wins before the bye. Then you have North Carolina, tough road spot at Virginia Tech. UVA coming to town at Louisville, another tough road spot, and then you play your rival Stanford in a game that if things are going, I mean, so we had 4. This could be 5. Yeah, to Sean's point, I felt like I was being fairly optimistic there. Maybe they beat UVA 6. I feel like I'm stretching to get to 6.
I like the over here,
but I like the vibes that Colby was putting out.
I feel pretty good what they did coaching staff. I'm going under.
Do you remember how screwed Brian Harsin got at Auburn?
Yeah.
2 coaches that got royally screwed.
And he would tweet when Auburn loses.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I guess if you got Rolovich,
if
you got Rolovich, you got a chip on your shoulder.
I think he's coaching for his job too. This is your first year of Riverboat Ron, and the fact that they're both defensive guys, I think maybe that.
But is that good or bad, right? Because if you have former head coaches,
but at least he's a defensive guy, and and Wilcox is a defensive.
No, I think
guy.
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go over, but I'm not liking this.
I think coaching staffs that have tons of experience are great.
Can I just mention this though? If you're looking for long shots like we saw Arizona State. Now I understand Cal's. It's hard to get a read because so many moving pieces. You had a mutiny basically when the contract stopped coming, but at the same time I look at that conference schedule and I say there's a path to the ACC championship.
Whoa.
Yes. Think about this. They don't play any of the top schools odds wise. I mean Louisville.
It's the same
SMU.
But it's in Berkeley.
It's the same. It's kind of how we were on Syracuse, and Syracuse blows a couple of those games. They were not very far away.
Very similar to Syracuse
from being. They were 9-3, but they weren't very far off from being 11-1 or 10-2 and getting into the ACC Conference Championship game. Now, are you going to actually? You might want to monetize your ticket if you're sitting on a 70-1 and get them into the ACC Championship game. But we've talked about this before, like the tiebreaker. If you're not playing any of the big dogs, it does make a difference.
I just think like if they monitor that Boston College game on the 27th of September, if they win that, then I'm like, because they get they get Duke, Carolina coming to Berkeley, which that's a hard trip, man. You saw Miami. Miami should have lost that game. The Miami was a top 10 team last year. I'm
going to give them loss. If I give them losses on all their East Coast trips,
then they would have 3 losses in conference, right?
Yeah.
And then they're still in play for the ACC championship.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I'm on the over. You guys talked me into it.
Yeah. Vibes play. Vibes. And maybe we go to social media hard and get the Cow Bears on our back. All right.
They do have a good fan base. I'm with Colby. Like they showed out for game day. That was cool.
And they have that tightwad hill where all those people stand up on the mountain and watch for free.
Yeah. You gotta be careful of the smell though.
Well, I'm sure you can do acid.
Disgusting hippies up there.
Patchouli?
Yeah.
We got to get Kramer some patchouli oil to go with his vibe.
No. You think Nick Rolovich is fucking around with that?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Next up, favorites to win the conference, plus 120. Oh, this one looks right. To win the ACC. It's Clemson coming off a 9-win season. The total's at 9.5. They did end up getting the job done because they were, fortunate.
They were the lone bid thief.
Yeah. A little bit of a bid thief because they blew the game against us, or because they won the game against. Well, they didn't. No, they won the game. What are you talking about?
They needed to win that to get in. Like their losses in the regular season. Well, no, yeah, they were the ones that really.
No, they got the auto bid. SMU was the thief.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But SMU got in regardless. Then, so the team that won the conference, they had to win the conference championship.
Yeah,
that's the bid thief.
Tomato.
There are two opposite things. Colby is saying because they wouldn't have gotten in unless they won that game, they are thus stealing.
No one was talking about Clemson making the playoffs.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm just simply the semantics of. I'm saying that because they got the auto bid. Yeah, it's SMU that.
But that's the one that shrunk the field.
No, I know.
Yeah.
9.5 this year, minus 194 to the over. My God, plus 156 to the under. Scared to take a bet? Minus 142 to make the college football playoff, plus 116 to miss, 13 to win, 13-1 to win the Natty. They are loaded this year. Brings up a great conversation piece. Are we thinking the ACC can get 2 teams again?
Potentially, they need.
Because if not, you're just getting a little value here for Clemson to win the conference over the playoff price.
I mean, it's tough to put because you know if another team goes SMU is 11-1, if a team runs that field, which is possible in the ACC because you have such variance between the teams. So schedules on a 17-team conference, you can like we just did with Cal, it's possible.
Kramer, did you order the sandwiches?
What do you mean? Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Well, was it not in the rundown?
Yeah, and I deleted it. I'm just double checking that the sandwiches got ordered.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the whole episode and then not have lunch.
Planned.
Okay.
As planned.
I'm just checking in.
Anyway, continue.
Look, Cade Klubnik is back.
The audience likes this back and forth.
Cade Klubnik is back, and he really flashed late in the season with Garrett Riley, Lincoln Riley's brother, the OC there. And the big thing this year, I think, he's back. The O-line, the receivers back, and then they brought in Tom Allen, who's a very good defensive coordinator. He was at Penn State's DC last year, he left. That wasn't a thing. Like Penn State wanted him back. He just left. So that was a big hire, and that was the thing that kind of was missing with Clemson over the past few years. When Venables took the Oklahoma job, the defense did fall off a tiny bit there. I felt like now I think Tom Allen's going to restore that. So I can see the optimism there on why so many people think they're a preseason top 5 team.
You think that's it, or you think it's Dabo finally realized? Like,
he brought transfers in.
I was going to say this is less about the coaches and more
Tom
about,
Allen is a really good.
Sure,
DC,
but he also was stubbornly saying that the Clemson way is to come and serve your time. And
to his credit, though, Klubnik, he could have moved on from Klubnik because Klubnik had his years of struggling.
Yeah,
and he stayed loyal to him.
He had a really good year. 36
touchdowns,
6 interceptions only. Returning 16 starters, Clemson. It's hard to come up with good reasons to fade them, I guess, right?
Well, you look at the schedule and it tells you everything you need to know. When they weren't playing the SEC,
That's last year.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I'm just explaining how this works. When Clemson was not playing the SEC,
South Carolina and Georgia lost.
they only lost one game.
Louisville.
And it was that Louisville game.
But that was a strange because Brom to go into Clemson and get that dub. That's what I mean. Is like they still weren't normal Clemson from a few years back. And you saw it even in the ACC championship when SMU was down like 21-0 and they stormed back and really had the momentum of that game before that kick return.
So using the what we just learned, we can look at this year's schedule and we can say
LSU. That's going to be a hell of a game.
The only difference is LSU's got to go to Clemson. Last year that was in
tough.
Atlanta.
two places that are Tigers and call their homes Death Valley. Is that?
Brian Kelly has lost the
battle
season
for Death
opener
Valley.
like 4 straight years, 5 straight years.
This is one where it's like I'm sure that when we are talking about week 1, which by the way, not that far away, we're gonna find our way into a what's the number on this game? Let's see. 3.
That's what I was gonna guess.
They're laying 3. Clemson is laying 3.
Yeah.
So they won't be. Will they be dogs this year? Run through the schedule. I mean, opening against LSU is. You got to give Dabo credit. I will say that. Also, if you have not seen Dabo and Bill Belichick doing content for the ACC network, check it out. Troy week 2 at Georgia Tech, and then
circle
that Bobby Dodge.
Circle that one to me.
What do you mean?
Well, Brent Key has been awesome against top 10 or top 15 ranked teams.
They're going to be physical.
I think he has 4 straight up wins.
Yeah, and should have beat Georgia last year. Remember that 8 overtime game?
Oh yeah,
they got.
That was insane.
Questionable call, late flag on in one of the overtimes there.
8.5 point spread right now for the record. On the road.
Clemson's favored by 8.5.
Yeah,
I'm all over Georgia Tech. Give me the bet that right now. Bet that right now.
Okay.
Take that on the money line too.
And then Syracuse, which very winnable game there. Although
Syracuse though has a knack for fucking with Clemson for whatever reason historically over the past like 10 years.
Yeah, you're right.
I feel like Syracuse gives Clemson fits.
You're right. What it wasn't last year. Was it 2 years ago?
I always feel like it's like more than they bargained for. It's
always
in
the Carrier Dome, especially.
Yeah. But I got them. I'm gonna say 3-1 at the first bye.
Then you have at North Carolina, which by the way, North Carolina is the ultimate wild card. No idea what they're
idea.
At North Carolina, at Boston College, back to back, and then SMU coming to town. I mean, these are all winnable games. They'll be favored. I'd imagine. We have a lot of look ads for Clemson, so we
back to back conference road.
They're laying 2 touchdowns against North Carolina, and they're laying 11.5 against SMU. The Boston College number will be much bigger. So the very, obviously all wins here, and then another bye, and then you have Duke, Florida State at Louisville, revenge spot. Sorry,
that's
Louisville.
A brutal 3-game stretch right there.
It is and it isn't though. I mean, is Duke going to handle the physicality of Clemson?
I think Duke is actually like a legit team. Like,
yeah,
I think Duke is a legit team. I actually think Duke's better than Florida State. Like when I look at their roster, I think Duke's roster is better than Florida State's this year.
I think you can, and the rest of the where'd you leave off, Ryan?
And then you got
Furman. They keep a good program.
Well, Clemson, like they fancy themselves a Southern program, so they do the SEC thing. Grab a nice FCS
and then
program.
At the Gamecocks, South Carolina is going to be up for that game.
Yeah.
Well, again, Clemson has revenge on their mind. They lost the game last year.
True.
So, those like the 2 revenge spots on the road down the stretch, Dabo, master motivator, those will be great spots for them. But there are a lot of potential losses on this.
I was about to say
9-3, 9-3.
Hear me out here.
You can get to 3 losses fairly easily.
Like I understand last year they stole the bid. They made the playoffs. They even played decent against Texas in the playoff game. However, this is a team that did lose to South Carolina last year. This is a team that barely beat Pitt 24-20.
Yeah.
Barely got past Virginia Tech. Right. And their schedule had Florida State was a 2-win team last year. They also had Stanford and Wake and UVA on the schedule.
Yeah. I think you can break it up into like little groups here. These first 4 games before the bye, could they lose one of those games? Very much so. Next 3, I think maybe one. potentially one
They
loss.
could lose one, but to me, it's not like Clemson 6 years ago when they're
Yeah.
blowing everybody away. Look at these scores; these are close games.
But then the last 5, I think you could get to either 1 or 2 losses. I just think there's a lot of ways you get to 3 losses with this Clemson team. So I'll take the under, and the juice is crazy. It's -200 to the over. So I'm on the under, and I would, maybe you can get the 10 at like even juice. I would like that.
Fucking road spots, man. Though I don't know about Carolina and Boston College.
So just to put, so the South Carolina, they're laying 6. Everyone else basically more than a touchdown. LSU 3. So only 2 of their games are they laying less than a touchdown.
I'm still taking the under. Like I could see 10-2. I think a 10-2 or 9-3, but I think there's too much decent teams on that schedule, man. Like like I said, last year they got.
If they win the LSU game, you're cooked. If you take the under.
This is a much harder schedule than last year. Like last year, they had UVA, Wake, Florida State, and Stanford on that schedule.
I think this is a much better Clemson team, and I think Dabo. I think
too.
The way that Dabo's talking, if you watch any of the ACC media, he knows it. He knows he's got a team. The way that he's joking with Belichick, he knows he's got a good team.
I could see 10-2 because it really, to me, it's the LSU game and then that at Carolina, at BC, SMU. They could go 3-0 there. If they go 3-0 there, I think we're cooked on the under. But I think 9-3 is going to happen.
All right. Seems as though we will agree to disagree here. Let's head back over to the next team, which, by the way, we didn't even mention that Clemson logo was fire. Then back to a basic Duke logo. Why not just put Coach K out here?
Yeah, come on.
Next time, can we just get Coach K?
Or friend of the program, Jay Billis?
Yeah, or Cooper
Colby
Flagg.
wasn't allowed to talk to Jay
Any
Billis.
of these great Duke. They're a basketball school. Why are we?
He's excited about the 4 quarters coming to college hoops.
They voted against it
Real
for
quick.
this year.
Imagine if you got Coach K to put a hood with horns on and get a side profile. He might
a guy Coach K in a hood might start calling him Coach KKK, Grand Wizard of Duke. Be careful, Ryan.
I've never really done a deep dive on what a Blue Devil is. I'll have to look into it further. This year, Duke coming off, good year for them, 7-5.
It's like the White Devil, just blue.
Yeah, exactly. Coming off a 9-3 year, good for them.
I was about to say
6.5, 7-5 was the year before. 6.5 is the win total this year. -142 to the over, +116 to the under. 31-1 is the conference price. 13-1 is the make playoff price, and 550-1 is the national championship price. Colby seems to be really leaning into the idea of Duke being good this year.
He's a Manny Diaz guy.
Well, and they went out. And part of the reason why Nico wanted more money from Tennessee is Tulane started a freshman quarterback last year who actually beat out 2 guys that we thought were going to start over him. And he went on for 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's from San Luis Obispo, and he's a fucking baller. Duke paid $2.5 million, I think it was reported, for him this season. Duke is spending money.
The quarterback mark.
Duke is spending money on football. And I'm buying in, man. Like I just think
started off 5-0, then they finished 9-3.
Look at this. Look at the schedule from last year, because I think if you objectively take a look at this, this is one of those where it's like, they picked up a lot of wins early.
They were projected to be dead last in a lot of people's publications.
Well, they had a nice little run late.
I got no problem with this Duke team. Lots changed. I don't know how I feel about Manny Diaz.
They should have beat SMU last year.
They were -55 yards per game in ACC play last year. That is a bit of a red flag coming.
A little concerning.
But to Colby's
maybe the
point,
scoreboard didn't match the production.
But to Colby's point, they are spending money. They had some close wins, but also had some close losses. They lost a game in overtime. They won a game in overtime. 1-point win over UNC.
Is there a win on this schedule where you're like, that was a good win?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
at NC State,
getting Carolina, NC State. I mean, I think the most impressive thing is the SMU game, which I felt like they should have won.
Yeah.
But and the bowl game, you shouldn't even read anything into because the whole team sat out.
That doesn't matter.
I'm
just saying
at NC State's a good win.
That's probably the only good win.
But they didn't. But basically,
UConn was an 8-win team. I mean, Carolina. Anytime you beat Carolina is good for them.
I mean,
homecoming.
Yeah.
What
was there? You could easily turn it around and say, what were their bad losses? At Georgia Tech, that was a tough spot.
But Georgia Tech was really good last year.
At Miami, they got their ass kicked. And to your point, SMU
made the playoffs.
Overtime loss to them. That's a respectable loss. So I think it goes both ways. Let's bring up.
You guys are really getting into you guys are really pro private school this year. I'm a little surprised.
Elon,
that's a win.
Okay,
I'm willing to give him
week 2 is interesting, man.
Illinois at home.
I'm going to go to that game.
My bad.
Brett Bielema, Illinois. Look, these are 2 teams with playoff aspirations.
Talking about the Joe Judge coaching tree right there.
Ooh, all rise.
At Tulane, tell us about how Tulane's spending money. Colby.
Yeah, but Duke took their starting quarterback. Kind of think Duke's going to get them, but it's tricky because it's at Tulane.
Yeah, and then you have the NC State, and then at Syracuse, at Cal, which is a tremendous back-to-back.
That is a tremendous back-to-back.
That is quietly a tough little run there.
And then they do the weird thing where they have bye Georgia Tech bye. Why waste?
I think they wanted the bye before Clemson.
I know, but this is a weird way to do it. Also,
down the stretch though, what a great down the stretch schedule.
Okay. Walk us through at Clemson, at UConn.
So
at Clemson's
2 back-to-backs,
but at UConn, which is probably going to be cold.
At UConn's going to be,
but that doesn't matter for the ACC championship.
At UConn could be tough because it could be a letdown either way.
Yeah,
if they upset Clemson,
why would you schedule
it's a letdown. If they get their ass kicked by Clemson,
but
it might be tough.
I like the final 3 games: UVA, North Carolina, and Wake.
Yeah. North Carolina is a massive wild card.
I agree, but I mean, I would want them on the schedule year 1 with all the turnover.
All right, so let's talk. How many games are they favored, Colby?
I think
home against Elon, they're favored.
I think they'll be favored against Tulane.
Home against, really?
I do. I think they're that. I mean, there's a 9-win team from a year ago that brings back a lot.
Home against NC State. Home.
Probably maybe Syracuse.
Let's do this.
Maybe
are they
Syracuse.
favored on the? So Tulane and Syracuse think they're favored on the road here because they're catching 1.5 against North Carolina for reference.
But everyone loves. That's like the prime angle. It's like everyone loves.
No, I understand that. I'm just for reference that's.
I mean, they're like. I'd say a pick.
I think they have a lot of. I think they made their schedule harder by having 2 back-to-backs. I think their road game, because of that, their road games are all tricky. Even the Tulane game being after the Illinois game is interesting. And I think if I can't. Which game are they winning on the road? I mean, even the North Carolina, you got revenge for the rivalry.
But I'll
game.
say this: which one are they losing besides Clemson? Like, I think they could win. They could go 5-1 on the road.
I mean, they don't have enough wins for me under.
I'm on the over. I actually think they're a contender.
I think they made their schedule too hard. You jammed your buys up in the middle. So if you are hot to start the season, now you've gotten 2 off weeks in there.
You ready for a hot take?
Before you play Clemson,
Mensa, second best quarterback in the conference.
Heisman play.
It's worth it. It's worth a dabble.
Manny Diaz, the defensive coach.
Over 6.5 for me. Under for Kramer. Over for Colby.
All right. Wow, we're disagreeing a lot on this one, Sean. Good or bad, I don't know. Next up, we have. It looks to be. Is this? Did the Seminoles of
Saudi
Florida
Arabia
move?
State?
Oh, okay.
They're here.
I didn't know that the tribe also was back in the cradle of life. Seminoles.
2-win season, but their win total 7.5. We have more than that. I thought. There's our guy.
Oh, wow.
Did you guys see last season? This is from like 5 or 6 years ago. But did you see last season?
He was back.
He was back. Look at him there, huh?
But this is amazing. I mean, so he just goes to games and reads.
Yeah.
Are we sure it's the same guy?
The same guy.
His
Look,
hair
he went viral, man.
Oh, so
it's
he
been
died,
like 7 or 8 years.
He started dyeing his hair. Yeah, nice.
He's got some great tits.
He had bigger arms in the past. Florida State, as you mentioned, going
what
from.
book is he reading? Did anyone ever?
I
figure
think
it out?
someone did. I thought it was like some spy novel or something. I don't remember.
Hardy
like,
Boys, maybe. It's a Florida man, so you got to assume the reading level isn't all the way up to the top. Remember, what 12 plus months ago, maybe a little bit longer, they were screwed out of a playoff berth.
They were screwed.
Jordan Travis, who by the way has retired from the NFL. We learned this while we were ripping cards with Daps, as one of his cards popped out. undefeated season to 2-10. I don't think that's happened in their history before. 7.5 this year. So to Colby's point, looking for 6 games of regression to get home. Plus 186 to the over, minus 235 to the under. 31-1 is the conference price. 13-1 is the make playoff price. 490-1 is the championship price. Comparing them to Duke, if you want to play the exercise, like Duke and Florida State probably have the same win total. If not, Duke's might be a little higher due to the juice. But they don't want to move it. I don't know why. Probably because they realize Florida State and alum are dumb and they will just keep pounding. Yes,
this is an interesting team because
do we even want to see the schedule?
It's a huge reset, but still, you really sucked last year.
Part of why they quit last year, I believe, is because they go really heavy in the portal every year.
Yeah, it's a mercenary team.
Right? So
you got mercenaries, and then once they realize, hey, we already got our money, then they don't give a shit.
It's really, and look, they probably should have lost that Cal game. What the Cal missed like 4 field goals that probably would have won them the game, but it's hard to because Norvell he's on the hot seat. He's on the hot seat.
How did he not get fired last year?
They had to pay players $20 million, but he did bring in Gus Malzahn as the OC, the sitting head coach at UCF, because Malzahn was about to get fired. Well, he read the tea leaves and he was like,
KJ Jefferson performance was awful.
And he also brought in Tony White, the DC from Nebraska, who has had a decent career as a DC. And they went heavy on the portal again, so it's tricky because. You want to talk? This could be a dumpster fire. It could be a decent team. They brought in Castellanos, who quit on Boston College last year at the quarterback. They open with Bama, which is really tough. But the next 2 games are pathetic.
Pull up their schedule because if they have any sort of bump in the road, to put in things perspective, minus 132 yards per game in conference. That is shitty.
Yeah, and what do we learn? Like in my opinion, to what Sean was alluding to earlier, if the coaching staff can't maintain,
they gotta beat Alabama because if you start losing early or if you slip up anywhere, this team is gonna bail on them.
Well, here's the thing that's tricky. I don't think they can beat Alabama. Right?
Yeah, I know.
But Texas A&M Commerce, is now called East Texas A&M, is brand new to the FCS.
Okay.
Right. So they're basically playing a D2 team.
Why?
And then Kent State.
Why?
Kent State fired their coach in the off like 2 months ago, and they're basically like an FCS team, a bad FCS team. So they're gonna be 2-1 at that point.
Pause. They're going to be 2-1, and they will have gotten their ass beat in one game and played 2 cupcakes.
I actually think I have Kent State ranked 136 in the nation out of 136 teams.
So you have what could be the 2 worst teams
in both
Division I football.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
so what is that doing for you?
It's giving you the same amount of wins as last season.
So my thing is, if you can't as a coach maintain like the goal and finish the season, and you lost your team, how insane would I have to be to think that you're not going to potentially lose the team again?
I mean, look at okay, maybe you're 2-1, then you're at UVA,
and I think that game is huge. That's a Friday night game. Virginia is actually
Virginia's
cover your ears, Kramer. Virginia's spending money.
Yeah, best football team in Virginia. Then
a lot of good people on both sides over there.
I mean, look, I sound crazy for thinking like we should take Virginia, but at the same time, I'm like, if it's Florida State from last season, sure, Virginia.
They got to show me. I'm sorry, they got to show me.
Miami at home, then Pitt at home, at Stanford. That's across the country. But then look at their schedule after the bye. You have Wake at home, sure, but then you're at Clemson.
Loss. That's a loss.
Virginia Tech at home. That's an easy win. But then you have at NC State.
I think that's
Florida.
A loss, and that's I mean, that's a Friday nighter.
I can easily give you a 5.
Where are they?
5 losses.
They're favored, obviously, against Kent State and Commerce.
Yes.
And then. They're probably favored against Pitt and Wake at home.
Yeah.
So I can tell you Miami's laying 7.5 against them.
Wow.
They're catching 16.5 against Clemson.
Wait, Miami's a 7.5 point favorite against FSU in that spot.
But here's something tricky too.
Yes.
Napier could be fired when they play Florida.
Oh boy, here we go.
Or vice versa.
So Clemson, like I said,
Clemson, but also Norvell, he's got to be on a short leash, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Like I mean,
I know it's different players, but it's the same coach and you lost the team, and you lost the team in a horrific way.
Yeah.
There was no sort of, hey, we bought back in and got some garbage time wins. There was no like, hey, we went on a little bit of a run. And they didn't win back-to-back games in a season where you're a preseason top 10 and you set the win total at 7.5. Fuck off.
And look at the quit that could happen down the stretch. I mean, closing the season with 3 road games and 4 games, and circle that Stanford game. That could be the game where everyone goes out, checks out, Cabo trip, whatever.
Yeah.
The bye week after.
Yeah.
How is this 7.5? They're not favored in 8 games.
I got them 7-5, so I'm going to take.
I got them 3-9.
Ooh, woo.
No, I would play like the alt.
There's potential. If I don't know how anyone feels confident on the over, because there's a potential that he's fired by the second.
Okay, so but seriously, if they are favored against the Hokies, Wake Forest, Pitt, and Stanford,
no way this team would lose a game where they're favored.
That's 4. Kent State and East Texas or Commerce that's 6 games. What's the other game they're going to be?
That's assuming they like Pitt beats great teams all the time.
I'm just saying, where are the 8 wins coming from? Yeah. I know the juice is ridiculous, but even if this was adjusted to 6.5, where are the 7 wins?
I can get to 7.
Their
Commerce, Kent State, if they beat UVA, that's 3. Pitt 4, Stanford 5, Wake 6, Virginia Tech 7. I can see 7-5. That's what I got them going actually.
Okay. Yeah. Good luck, Colby.
But I'm still on the under.
Good luck, Colby. Lock.
You know what my lock is on unders? Well, obviously Florida State, but also Underdog Fantasy. Head over to Underdog Fantasy. Drop that promo code SGPN. Get a deposit match up to $1,000 in bonus cash. The ultimate NIL deal. $1,000. You know what you could do with that? You could get 40 free entries in Best Ball Mania, the best ball draft. You just draft your players. You don't have to do dumbass waivers, worry about voiding trades. It's all the fun part about fantasy football without the pain in the ass, and you can win millions of dollars. Imagine becoming a fantasy football millionaire. You're listening to a guy who's a fantasy football 200,000-aire. It's nice. Awesome. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, your home for AI-backed picks, props, great for MLB, WNBA in season, and the college football models dropping soon. And of course, you're going to get in. You're going to want to get in over there. Perfect way to build your systems, your data. It's great to have data and gut instinct, gut handicapping, and Rhythm is awesome. And you think, oh, building my model, I don't know anything about math. You don't have to know shit. Rhythm does the math for you. They're like the kid. You can copy their homework or just do it yourself, whatever. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Get you the 7-day free trial today. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
All right, let's move along. Georgia Tech. Oh, we got to scroll through these beautiful pictures. Colby, I feel like the logo work for the ACC is a little basic.
Wow.
I've seen this one before. It's a B, very scary. Yellow Jacket actually is what this other Tech school is. They think it's a fierce war animal. Not really. You just step on it. 7-5 last year. They don't run the triple option anymore, Colby. 7.5 this year. Some optimism.
They still are one of the more physical running teams.
Minus 142 on the over, plus 116 to the under. They were a fun team last year. Plus 1,400 to win the conference. Years ago, the ACC used to run through that Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech game. Not so much anymore. 760 to make the playoff. Minus 142 to miss the playoff. That's interesting.
I like that sprinkle.
150
I like that sprinkle.
to 1 to win the natty. What, the miss or the make?
To make. So you look at last season. Can you pull up last season's schedule there?
Yes, sir.
Two of their losses came when their quarterback was out.
That's about to say. Haynes King missed some time, and Notre Dame was very fortunate to play Georgia Tech without Haynes King, who's one of the best players I think in college football. I think they're a very good team. Now they do run him a lot, so like he might have got injured because they give him like, what do you do against Georgia? He had like 40 carries. I feel like against.
Yeah, you got to use what works though.
But I kind of buy into what Brent Key in this culture, former offensive lineman, played at Georgia Tech. he's really got this thing going, I think, right now. And Jamal Haynes, one of the best running backs in the nation. They lose Singleton, the receiver, to Auburn, but they bring in Rivers, was a really good receiver from Florida International.
Brett Key 4-0 straight up against ranked ACC teams.
You don't want to because they're the type of team. They're nasty. They're on the line of scrimmage. They ask Kirby Smart, man. Every Georgia fan knows they stole that one last year. Georgia Tech was the better team that game. I don't care what anyone says. You watch that fucking game. Go back and watch that game and tell me Georgia Tech had like a double-digit lead with like 4 minutes left. I think this team is legit, man. I really buy into the culture that he sells there. And they finally got a break on the schedule. Last year's schedule was insane. And this year you look at the schedule and I think it's much more manageable. You're getting Clemson at home. I mean, first you're getting, if we're going to go chronologically, you're getting Colorado after they repair their whole damn roster, right?
Whoa, what are you saying?
I love Colorado, but I took the over, but not in that game. I think Georgia Tech's going to beat them.
Yeah, the physicality is going to be a problem, right?
Well, Colorado's trying to be Georgia Tech. They're trying to be physical this year, but you don't want to play Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
in my opinion, week 1.
That's a tough spot.
Yeah, so,
but it is at elevation.
True, but then you get
elevation is better earlier in the year.
Then you get Gardner Webb week 2. Win the running Bulldogs. Clemson week 3. I told you this.
Win.
I think they can beat Clemson.
Temple, that's tough.
You guys got to remember, Clemson does the air raid now. I think a team this physical fucks with them. So then Temple, they're breaking in a brand new head coach with Casey Keeler.
Real quick, they are laying 3.5 at Colorado.
Yeah.
For those wondering.
Yeah. Then they're at Wake Forest. Getting Temple and Wake Forest there is fantastic to me.
Yep.
Both first year head coaches in September.
Then Wake Forest can be bad for a little bit, I think.
Then they get a bye week, and then they're home to Virginia Tech.
Another bye week.
Yeah. At Duke. Okay, that could be a little tricky.
These comments are inflammatory.
At Duke, Syracuse at home. That's where you want them.
Yeah.
At NC State.
How about this? All of their road trips are to Raleigh, Wake Forest, Duke, and NC State.
And then they have at Boston College.
Yeah. But it's still 3 of their 4 road games. But here's my problem.
So they only have to get on a plane once.
Here's my problem.
Twice all season.
No, it's a good point.
Colorado and Boston College.
But here's the thing that's tricky that just drives me fucking crazy, guys. And we talked about this on the Georgia, because you could be playing for a bye week in the playoffs potentially, and you schedule this game outside of Bobby Dodd after the way you played him in Athens last year. You idiots. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like you could cost your university so much money. What
do they get for this?
They got extra money. Georgia. Yeah.
To Colby's point, it's such a short-term money play.
Yeah.
Because if you make the playoff, you're going to get way more money, way better recruits, TV money, whatever.
Now the good news is this:
if you beat Georgia, it's worth way more than playing in a neutral.
100%.
The math is simple.
100%. And the good news though is you can still make the ACC championship because the Georgia game doesn't matter or anything. But if you were to beat Georgia, the ACC championship wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
It's so dumb, but I think there's a path there. I honestly, like, which games are they like? Do you feel like is an automatic loss? I don't see any.
I mean, on the road, the fact that the road games are all relative short trips in the conference, they can lose to Duke. Obviously,
I'm saying in conference.
If we looked at
the Georgia game,
if we looked at the spread, Georgia would be the only one where they're a big dog, right?
Clemson, they're catching 8.5.
Oh, you're right.
Which I don't even understand. I don't understand that line.
I'm way on the over.
Yeah,
I'd imagine they'll be favored in all games that aren't Clemson and Georgia. Maybe the road games against Duke,
NC State's a great home environment.
But
Duke's
even then,
be pretty good this year.
So you're a dog 4 times, maybe max.
I'm on the over there. This team is the most physical team, I think. Like, you look at the schedule, other than maybe Georgia, I think they're more physical than every team on the schedule.
Yeah, not a big fan of backing Georgia Tech, but I will say it's pretty easy to get to 8 wins.
I think it's a team that can make the playoffs.
It's a 9-3 team to me. 8-4, 9-3, easy to take the over.
Yeah, I like
Smash
it.
A little bit of juice, but
Haynes King's got to stay healthy though. Got to stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, he's he plays hard though, so you don't want him to not play hard. Next up, We got the Louisville Cardinals, and this is a logo I've never seen before. I think Colby might have hand drew this one.
This used to be on their helmet, dude.
8.5 is the win total this year after an 8-4 season last year. A little disappointing. -132 on the over, +108 to the under. 750 to win the conference, +360 to make the playoff, -500 to miss. 850 to 1 to win the national championship.
This is another one though from a year ago. Though, if you go back and watch that Miami game, very questionable call.
Well, again, Miami got a lot of calls.
Jeff Brom, I think he's doing a really good job. He just stole. Jeff Brom. I think he's one of the best coaches in the conference, and I do think there's value here for them. I think them, and the question I think a lot of people would say would be like, after Clemson, who would be the top dog in the ACC? And I think everyone's saying Miami.
No.
I just think Georgia Tech and Louisville are so much better coached than Miami. I feel like they should be the teams that are knocking on the door. SMU as well.
We'll get to my Carson Beck takes later, but
this is another schedule that I kind of like, man. 8.5 wins. I know that the numbers reflecting this, but you look at the non-con, and first off, they went out and got Miller Moss, the starting quarterback from USC.
They do have our buddy Phil Steele coming off 4 net close wins, which is a sign of things not breaking right for you this year. But it is a good team for Brom.
Well, look at
the easy counter.
Yeah, and like honestly, the schedule last year there were some tougher spots.
Notre Dame, they lost by 7.
Putting Clemson on a back-to-back road spot.
SMU. I mean, look, all their losses were to what? Playoff teams or a team that missed the playoffs by 1 game, right? The Stanford one's the only puzzling one.
Well, it's that weird road trip again. That's why Stanford will end up inevitably picking up some wins here. This is an interesting spot because I feel like every year we come into the Louisville preview and Colby's excited because they went to they were my darling the year before. They went to the ACC championship. That's my point. You like them every year.
I think this team is really good though. Show me the weakness on this team. The running back room is really good. The wide receivers with Chris Bell and that's another thing. They were a little injured last year too. Getting healthier. And I think this is year 3 of Jeff Brom. Year 1 made the ACC championship. Year 2, I still think they had a good season last year. And
I'll tell you why. Because they catch Miami and SMU on the road. They catch Clemson.
But last time they played Miami on the road, that was a Louisville crowd.
They have the Hokies in Blacksburg in November.
Yeah.
That's the answer because they're going to start good like this. If there's ever a team that we talk about where you want to maybe, if you like the under, you wait till they win a couple games and take the adjusted win total. Cause
I locked them up last year over 8.5 with Colby.
Didn't get there because, but look at this. They open against easy wins against Eastern Kentucky and JMU.
Yeah.
Then a bye week.
JMU dropped 70 on North Carolina last year.
There he is. Then they have Bowling Green,
Eddie George
at Pitt and Virginia.
Okay,
very easily.
Let me tell you, I love the fact they get Pitt in September because they got Pitt in November a couple years ago, and that was a bad spot.
If they're 5-0, you're telling me we're not going to find a little value betting the under at this point because then the schedule gets tricky at Miami, Boston College.
I think they're
at Virginia Tech, Cal, Clemson, at SMU, Kentucky.
Yes, I mean you regard Virginia Tech much more than myself. I know it's a tough environment.
I think it's going to be another
crowd.
November in Blacksburg.
Every time I buy into Louisville, I'm disappointed. I think they'll be solid, but I'm going to go under 8.5.
What do you think the number is in the Miami?
I think they'll be 8-4 again. Like there's 4 losable games on this schedule.
There'll be dogs against Clemson, Miami, SMU.
They're going to beat Clemson Friday night at fucking Louisville.
They
beat Clemson last year at Clemson.
They'll be dogs. What 3 games?
I got them on the over. I think they're a 9-3 team.
It's close. You know what I'll use as the tiebreaker? How many? Oh, give me the over.
What's the tiebreaker?
Just seeing how many overs and unders I had in the conference so far, and knowing what I'm about to do to Miami.
All right.
Next up. Final team in the
part one
of the ACC. We have the University of Miami Hurricanes. Although their mascot is some weird bird,
it's like a Popeye.
It's
hybrid.
very offensive that we continue We continue.
Colby's promoting smoking. We might get flagged
I put
by
the
YouTube.
Schnellenberger pipe there, that like it used
Corn
to be.
cob pipe.
Yeah, let's go.
We continue to allow this team to use the offensive name of Hurricanes in spite of the obvious death tolls and damage that these things do to our great country. Miami, which when I was in school at Virginia Tech, they sold the scalpers would sell these amazing F the U shirts. Some of the greatest moments I've experienced in Blacksburg were beating Miami, rushed the field after the famous D'Angelo Hall strip Roscoe Parrish game. All right. Anyway, Miami doesn't see. Does the duck? Is it missing hands? In the like? What is the shirt too big?
It's a little big. It was a hurricane. It's windy. It's wet.
This feels like a guy who just got done with his whore, and someone knocked on the door. He threw on a long like hockey jersey and grabbed his pipe. This is about to fuck someone up. For some reason, he has tape over his face.
Popeye
as well.
vibe.
Miami variance maybe last year. A lot of close games. A lot of comebacks, a lot of
nice whistles,
a lot of refs assists
or not whistles.
And the ACC knew where their bread was buttered, and they still managed to not get the job done. 6-2 in conference, 10-2 overall. Cam Ward now in the NFL. They pay a lot of money for a quarterback who doesn't even know how to lock his Lamborghinis. 9.5 is the win total, plus 128 to the over, minus 158 to the under.
Sounds like Kramer's high on him this year.
Plus 390 for them to win the conference. 184 to make the playoff, minus 230 to miss. That might be the best bet we've talked about yet. 41-1 to win the national championship. Carson Beck showed me a couple things. One, maybe you took more money, or maybe you couldn't cut it in a real program down there in Georgia.
Woo!
You're a bitch. You went to a program that is just. What do we think about the coaching?
Mario Cristobal, I think is one of the worst coaches.
And he's good for one game a year where you're.
Oh,
I mean,
there were 4 last year, if
Yeah.
not for Cam Ward.
Yeah,
and a friendly whistle.
and we still are all over Syracuse ruining their playoff chances. They took that thing on the money line.
10-2 Miami team was completely fraudulent. I'm with you, Kramer. I'm not as salty, but the under.
It's not salty. They don't have a home field advantage.
That's a great point. And they play their only break schedule wise is they don't play Clemson. But their conference games and even some of their out of conference
non-con, Notre Dame, South
their
Florida,
road
and
games
Florida.
are
Real quick,
tough.
let's just look at last year. Let's just remember some of these ridiculous.
They did look great that opening day.
Yeah.
All right, so should have lost to Virginia Tech. The officials assisted there.
Should have lost to Georgia
Cal.
Tech.
Shoulda
No, it
lost-
was all 3 of those games in a row.
Should have lost to Cal.
It was all 3 of.
Should have lost to Louisville.
All 3 of those in a row were the ones.
So if they lose those games, we're talking about a very different team. So yeah, this year.
Oh, they did lose to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, they did. They do lose. So now this year they open against Notre Dame, which I'm not the biggest Notre Dame fan, but I'm buying into the coach. And
might
the
not have
culture.
the crowd there.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have the crowd there. I think
Notre
it'll be
Dame will have
50 or maybe even to Notre Dame's favor.
That's that Catholics versus convicts thing. I think the Notre Dame fans will want to.
Convicts have given up.
Then you get Bethune-Cookman.
Which hopefully you can win that game.
So I got them 1-1. Then they get South Florida, which is a sneaky game because Florida is on deck.
Yeah.
Florida's a big rivalry game if you didn't know. And then you get South Florida coming in there. But
what do you think the number is in that game? Miami versus Florida.
I'm assuming Miami -2.5.
Miami is -5.5.
Ooh, chomp.
They're very overrated. They're catching 2.5 at home against Notre Dame for reference. Anyway, continue.
Well, Florida have the I don't know. Miami fans might actually show up to that one because they're playing Florida, but I don't know.
Florida bye, Florida State on the road, another bye. I don't get why you do this to yourself. Why would you schedule like this? And then the rest of the season you don't have a bye?
After the second bye, what do you have their record at right now?
I think it's reason. I mean, they're laying 7.5 on the road at Florida State. I probably have to give them.
I'm going to say 4-1.
Yeah,
4-1's fine.
One
Yeah.
loss.
But I got them losing to Louisville.
But then they have Louisville. They get Stanford at home, at SMU,
It's a loss.
Houston at
Probably a
home,
loss.
NC State at home,
And then this right here, this 1-2
at
punch.
Virginia Tech, at Pittsburgh. Are
You know
you
how
kidding
cold
me?
it's going to be on
weather.
November 22nd, November 29th in those cities?
So, from a point spread perspective, they're laying 7.5 against Louisville. They're laying 2.5 on the road at SMU.
Like, what are the automatic wins here? It's Bethune-Cookman, South Florida, and Stanford.
The argument for them is they will be favored in every game
Still though,
except for Notre Dame.
NC State's a solid team. That you're not like last year. They had Wake Forest and shit on the schedule.
I don't believe in Carson Beck. So could they lose to the SEC defense and the Gators? Sure. Could they lose? I hear Florida State's got a really good defensive line, or at least players on the defensive line.
That game you could lose to Florida State, but I think Miami's going to win it. But
Carson Beck is good for a couple losses here. I think the weather's good for a couple losses here. I don't think they go on the road and beat SMU.
I got them losing to Louisville.
I think things could get rocky, right? Yeah, to your point.
And to me, like Syracuse lost some production from last year, but I think Fran Brown's got that thing going in the right direction. I think that team will be much better in November than they are in September.
This is the most overrated team in the country.
Yeah. Woo. I'll take the
Carson. Is Carson Beck good to you?
No.
I watched him. Kept thinking
because he's on Georgia.
Did
Georgia give a shit about keeping Carson?
Was
Beck?
He good on Carson?
No,
was he good on Georgia?
That's all you need to know.
Yeah,
Georgia. Did Georgia's win total get impacted by losing their quarterback? Did their title odds dramatically shift? We don't have Carson Beck this year.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Lock it up on the under.
I agree.
Everyone on the under.
Wait. So real last thing I'll say. So I'm looking at Carson Beck's numbers last year. He did have some nice games, but man,
come on. I could have some nice games playing for Georgia.
He also had some bad games. He had 3 interception games and a 2 interception game. That's not, I mean, imagine that with Miami and Cristobal. Not a good recipe. Good work.
Yeah, I feel pretty damn good about that.
Good work.
I just think there's so many trap games, and Cristobal, his teams are often unprepared and they're penalized nonstop. So like games that you just think are gimme games like Syracuse and NC State.
I mean, honestly, like
are losable games to me.
I know we were pretty anti Florida State, but the idea that Florida State beats Miami would be peak Miami.
Yeah, Florida State could. Any of those rivalry games, that wouldn't shock me.
But let's see how Miami reacts to getting thumped by Notre Dame to start the year. To me, that's the starting point.
Yeah.
All right, 2 locks and a future. And then we get to eat the sandwiches. Ryan.
Then we get to eat those sandwiches.
I was looking at sandwiches for a long time yesterday.
Yeah. Check out @Gambling Podcast for the uncensored sandwich photo. Colby or Kramer, what do you got? 2 locks and a future.
All right, so let's just we've been banging a single drum, so we'll go under Florida State.
FSU under 7.5.
We'll go under Miami.
Okay,
it's actually 2 quite easy plays right there.
And your future?
I feel I'm gonna feel foolish when I end up being wrong. But I like Colby. You know what? Let's do Georgia Tech to make the playoff.
Ooh,
I like it, buddy.
Because Colby highlighted there's a couple non-cons that can get them there. That's probably why you're seeing that depressed price. But yeah,
okay. I'm taking Georgia Tech over 7.5. I got to take Florida State under 7.5.
Stronger than Miami.
Yeah. Miami at least like won some games last year. I get it's a different season, blah blah. There's just so many ways this Florida State thing can go wrong. And for my future, I'll actually take Georgia Tech to win the ACC because I don't know. I don't know if they make the playoffs if they don't win the ACC. So give me Georgia Tech. Let's go. Colby, what do you got? Colby sold me on Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I'll take that Miami under 9.5, and I'll take Georgia Tech over 7.5. I think the Duke schedule is a little harder than Georgia Tech, so it was between Duke and Georgia Tech.
Duke was close.
And then the future is I think because what they get if they lose to Georgia, then I will.
We're really doing something.
Yeah, no, I'll do the plus 760 to make the playoffs.
You guys are a little scared. I get it. Not true Georgia Tech believers like myself. A little small dog future for you, gentlemen. All right, we got Ace.
Hear this guy?
We got the ACC preview part 2 coming up. Of course, smash that subscribe button. Toss us a nice 5-star rate and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the College Football Experience for your individual team preview podcasts. And of course, as always,
Thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
for Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean. Second the money green. He's Ryan.
Miami's really going to suck this year.
Kramer, let it ride.
I'm wet.
Hey, God.